It's Wednesday, June 21. In the headlines, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announces job descriptions for cabinet ministers and legislators. In business news, local inflation increased marginally in May. Regionally, in the Bahamas, there's an ongoing public debate. Discipline or abuse? How far is too far? Internationally, UK government is hosting Ukraine Recovery Conference to discuss rebuilding efforts. And in sports, Alana Reid inks deal with Nike. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has tabled job descriptions for cabinet ministers and other legislators. The document sets out the strategic objective of the posts, their purpose, reporting and accountability, key deliverables and responsibility areas, performance standards, competencies, contacts, and working conditions.
In proposing a job description, we are not suggesting anything new or outside our laws and constitution. However, few people have a full appreciation of what the appointment requires or the election to be a member of parliament requires. It is hoped that this job description will help members of the public better appreciate and understand the roles and responsibilities of ministers and members of parliament. Madam Speaker, good governance also means holding our parliamentarians and ministers to the highest standard of conduct.
The job descriptions came 5 weeks after the announced salary increases for the political directorate. The Minister of Labour and Social Security, Pernell Charles Jr., gave some updates on the projects being pursued by his ministry while addressing the weekly post-cabinet press briefing on Wednesday. He keyed in on his trip to Geneva to attend the 111th session of the International Labour Conference.
So let me start with the conference. While in Geneva, we had the opportunity to meet with our colleagues across CARICOM. We had the opportunity to meet also with instrumental leaders, policymakers, and other stakeholder groups to discuss the important matters regarding labor and social security, to exchange knowledge, to work together to develop strategies that will equip Jamaica and the region to compete on a global stage.
He spoke of his meeting with the executive director of the International Trade Center, Palomiko Hamilton. He says the meeting was especially significant as Jamaica is working on its digital landscape.
Arising out of the meeting with the ITC, we were able to have them pledge to us support to Jamaica for research and further cooperation in respect of positioning our workforce and the future of work in Jamaica within the emerging global landscape. We will continue our technical team to work with the ITC team to define exactly the scope of that collaboration.
Minister Charles says his delegation also met with the Secretary General of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development about the single trade facilitation window through JAMPRO.
We agreed that UNCTAD would work with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to develop policies and strengthen institutions required to expand trade through improved productivity. Again, highlighting the intersection between trade and labour. UNCTAD has committed to assisting Jamaica in conducting a productivity assessment strategy to identify gaps or obstacles and ways for us to work together to navigate or overcome them.
Jamaica's tourism sector is expecting a boom in the number of visitors set to land this year. According to Portfolio Minister Edmund Bartlett, 1.4 million airline seats have been secured for the summer travel season, representing a 16% increase over the previous season in 2019. Jamaica's main source market, the United States of America, has locked in 1.2 million of these seats.
This period of what we call the summer in tourism, 2023, will become the most successful summer in the history of tourism in Jamaica. Madam Speaker, already even before the completion of the 6th month of this year, we have already brought in 2 million visitors to Jamaica and have earned over $2 billion for the country.
He told Parliament that the Ministry of Tourism and its public bodies continue to implement strategic and groundbreaking programs to ensure that a more inclusive, resilient and sustainable tourism sector is developed in the post-COVID-19 era.
As a result of that, Madam Speaker, we are pleased to advise that the Inter-American Development Bank has become the technical partner for us as we seek to develop a robust and well-defined tourism strategy and action plan, which will serve as a roadmap for a successful tourism future. This strategy, Madam Speaker, addresses the important issues of economic growth and inclusion, environmental sustainability, cultural preservation, human capital development, and maintaining the balance between the quality of a visitor experience and the quality of our lives as citizens of the country.
According to Minister Bartlett, collaboration with key stakeholders and tourism partners is critical to this effort.
To this end, we have begun a series of island-wide workshops to obtain valuable feedback and insights that will help shape the direction of the future of our tourism initiatives. We have already held successful workshops in Montego Bay, Port Antonio, and Ocho Rios, and we have workshops that are planned for all the other resort areas across Jamaica.
Minister Bartlett gave the update in the lower house of Parliament on Tuesday while closing the annual sectoral debate. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang has requested an extension of the 7 zones of special operations due to delays in having the relevant statute amended. Speaking in Parliament on Tuesday, Dr. Chang said it was unlikely for the amended legislation to be ready for the next 60 days.
Madam Speaker, the work continued in all 3 zones. We have had impact. I think the members are familiar with the outcome. Most of them are in the build phase. There are some delays in terms of budget, but I know that Jamaica Social Investment Fund is moving to begin the build phase in pretty much all of the areas that we are now operating in.
Zozos are underway in Mount Salem, Norwood, Denham Town, August Town, Greenwich Town, Parade Gardens and Savannah Lamar. The House of Representatives approved the resolution for the extension of the 7 zones of special operations until August 24. It's time now for the Business Report with Danita Rodney.
The Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin is reporting that local inflation saw a marginal increase in the month of May. Statin says the cost of goods rose by 6.1% on an annual basis. This is just above the point-to-point rate of 5.8% in April. Inflation data was driven by an 11% jump in the cost of food and non-alcoholic beverages, which was tempered by a 0.7% drop in costs associated with transport services. For the month of May alone, the cost of goods and services increased by 0.6%. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, June 20, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.96. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $117.36. The pound sterling traded for $199.15, and the euro sold for an average of $172.41. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 2,465 points. The junior market index advanced by 31 points. The combined market index declined by 2,015 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 3,269 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 107 stocks, of which 37 advanced, 50 declined, and 20 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Stocks declined for Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, Cargo Handlers Limited, and Caribbean Cement Company Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Siboney Group Limited. The overall volume leaders were NCB Financial Group Limited with over 6 million units, Trans Jamaican Highway Limited, and Mayberry Jamaican Equities Limited with over 5 million units. In regional stocks in Trinidad and Tobago, zero securities traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the volume leader with over 100,000 shares. They were followed by First Caribbean International Bank and Cave Shepherd and Company Limited, which traded over 11,000 shares and 4,000 shares respectively. In regional business, destination marketing is a necessary tool to promote any country. As such, the Ministry of Tourism and the St. Kitts Tourism Authority have embarked on several initiatives to ensure that the Federation is properly marketed as a top tourist destination.
One such initiative is traveling outside of the Federation to market the destination. An initiative Minister of Tourism Marsha Henderson said is critical as it helps to familiarize people with St. Kitts and Nevis and bring visitors to our shores, which will in turn boost the economy and establish St. Kitts and Nevis as a desirable holiday destination. She was speaking on the latest edition of the SKNS TV and radio show, In Focus.
We continue to work hard, both in the ministry and at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority. The new campaign was only launched last year, and we've seen the results, the aggressive marketing and the selling of the destination. I mean, when people talk, it has to be ignorance when people say, oh, we're always on a plane. We cannot stay here and sell the destination. All of these awards that you just mentioned and the others come from aggressive marketing of the destination. When we stay here, other destinations are out there competing with us. So when we stay in our little cozy corner, and how do people get here? How do they know about us? A lot of people even in Europe. Last November we went to London. We did road tours in Kent, Surrey. We went West London and other places just to sell the destination. And can you imagine, Ian, some people didn't even know St. Kitts existed. Now, can you stay here and get people to know about us? And so we have to go out there and we sell the destination, and I'm happy that we're seeing results.
Minister Henderson said that through the Ministry of Tourism and the SKTA's robust marketing campaign, more persons are now coming to the Federation from the United Kingdom. The Tourism Minister noted that the Ministry of Tourism and the SKTA continue to engage relevant stakeholders as they have a critical role to play in the industry. I'm Andre Huey for SKN Newsline.
In international business, Wall Street closed in negative territory as investors began the holiday-shortened week by taking profits in the wake of a sustained rally amid signs of weakening global demand.
U.S. stocks started the holiday-shortened week on a down note Tuesday, taking a pause after the Nasdaq's longest weekly winning streak in more than 3 years. The Dow fell 0.7%, the S&P 500 dropped about 0.5%, and the Nasdaq slipped about 0.2. A report out Tuesday showed housing starts experienced their largest monthly jump in 30 years. That, along with data out Monday showing stronger home builder sentiment, could mean the economy is on solid footing, says Janney Montgomery Scott Chief Investment Officer Mark Lucchini.
Collectively, they suggest once again that this recovery that isn't embryonic at this point, it's months in the making, is developing, which suggests perhaps some firming in economic activity, which on one hand is good for the consumer, on the other may continue to complicate the the formula around what the Federal Reserve is going to have to do in order to tame inflation.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell is set to address Congress Wednesday, and his comments will be closely monitored. He could get asked about China after it cut its lending benchmarks to jumpstart sluggish demand. Stocks on the move Tuesday included Rivian. The electric car maker jumped nearly 6% after agreeing to adopt Tesla's charging standard. Tesla rose 5%. And Nike fell close to 4% after broker Morgan Stanley raised concerns about the shoe company's inventory glut.
In market data for oil prices stabilized as data showing British inflation remains sticky and ahead of the Federal Reserve Chair's congressional testimony. Brent futures slipped 10 cents to $75.80 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude futures edged down 8 cents to $71.11. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, a recent court case where a mother admitted to beating her son with an electrical cord sparked a heated discussion on where the line should be drawn. Berthany McDermott has that story.
How far is too far when it comes to discipline? It's a question that's been circulating for quite some time, with everyone having their own views.
A little spank, a little pinch, a little shove, that's it, but actually take a belt and all and beat the child. I was beaten as a child, didn't do anything for me because I was still bad anyway.
I personally don't think that we should be using anything physical to discipline children.
A woman got a conditional discharge on Monday after beating her child with an electrical cord because he ended his school year with a 1.0 GPA. The child's grandparents took him to the hospital following the beating on June 14th, and he was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. These residents tell us the use of objects like an electrical cord is taking it a bit too far.
We should never spray the rod and spoil the child. However, we need to know when it is intended to correct behavior and when it's intended for abuse. And that incident yesterday, that was abuse.
I don't think a child should be beaten with a cord. I think there's other ways you could discipline a child. You could take away things from them, take away the TV or take away the computer or take away the phone or something like that.
People also sounded off on an R News social media poll. 74% or 89 people saw it as abuse, 24% or 27 people saw it as discipline, and 3 people or 2% were undecided. This resident says, where are the fathers? They are supposed to be the king of their family. Another adds, they say foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall surely drive it out. And then there was this resident who says, I have no problem with discipline or corporal punishment, but beating a child with an electrical cord is barbaric. Meanwhile, this resident says it's important to honor and respect each other.
It's a tricky situation. Parenting can be very hard and very challenging, but we always want to treat people with as much love and respect as possible, even when we discipline them.
Meanwhile, this resident who didn't want to be on camera says for too long, parents have been abusing children and calling it discipline. She says parents ought to discipline children out of love.
Not out of frustration. Children aren't punching bags for your emotional venting and frustration.
In Guyana, in a bid to improve and help develop their lives, persons living with disabilities will now be able to benefit from free training so that they can become financially independent through the state-of-the-art training and empowerment center called the Learning Lab, which was opened on Tuesday.
Minister of Human Services and Social Security, Dr. Vindhya Prasad, on Tuesday commissioned a $73 million new training and empowerment center known as the Learning Lab at Jamaica on the east coast of Demerara. The facility is in keeping with the government's promise of assisting persons living with disabilities. It seeks to develop and improve the lives of persons living with disabilities by providing them with technical and vocational skills so that they can be employed. The state-of-the-art facility consists of 3 training halls, a kitchen, washroom facilities, and was built to ensure easy access. A sum of $5 million was contributed by the Spotlight Initiative, the European Union, and the United Nations to furnish the center. Delivering the feature address to the opening ceremony, Minister of Human Services and Social Security, Dr. Vindhya Prasad, said the institution is the first of its kind and will no doubt impact the lives of those who utilize it. In light of the government's vision of working with persons living with disability, Dr. Prasad said much effort was put into the design, equipping, and placement of the institution.
So this is the kind of advanced work we're doing in Guyana, ensuring that there is equal opportunity, there is equal access, and there is the kind of development that can stand us in good stead for the years ahead. It is also a center that focuses on empowerment, life skills, and provides a safe space for recreation and meetings.
According to Dr. Prasad, the center will cater for persons living with diverse disabilities. Plans are also in the pipeline to provide transportation so that persons can get to the institution, Dr. Prasad said.
Every person living with disability must not be seen outside. They must be seen as part of us, as part of this human family. And their needs must not be too many. Their needs must be things that we can provide, and we must never stop providing.
There is a major push to deepen ties between Rome and St. John's as Antigua and Barbuda welcomed a new ambassador from the Republic of Italy. Fabrizio Nicoletti. More from ABS News.
The welcoming of the new Italian ambassador highlights the strong ties between the two countries. Antigua and Barbuda and Italy officially established diplomatic relations in 2005. Governor General's Deputy Sir Claire Roberts KC remembers Italy was one of the first European countries to provide their support to the country following the passage of Hurricane Irma.
Italy's monetary donation of US $300,000 was channeled through the International Red Cross. Today, 6 years after being ravaged by a Category 5 hurricane, the rebuilding of a better, more resilient Barbuda continues to be realized.
Prime Minister the Honourable Gaston Brown believes there are significant opportunities for further collaboration between the two countries.
Pressing hard as a small island state to achieve the SDGs, and we continue to depend on Italy and other developed countries to help us to build capacity in various areas. We certainly want to thank you for the assistance that your country would have extended to Antigua and Barbuda and the broader Caribbean over the
Foreign Affairs Minister the Honourable E.P. Chet Green echoes the sentiments of the Prime Minister.
It's a common our love for democracy and our shared value and sharing this planet Earth, our home, brings us into close contact, and very often we are on the same path, so to speak, on global issues.
The Italian ambassador says Italy has always placed emphasis on collaborative support.
And Italy provides financial and technical assistance to the Caribbean countries, both bilaterally and multilaterally, as well as accelerating the implementation of programs aimed at achieving by 2030 the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
Rakib Aparicio reporting for ABS News.
In international news, an international conference is underway in London to help Ukraine recover and rebuild from the conflict with Russia.
Kyiv says it needs more than $6 billion in the next 12 months. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has pledged $54 billion for a 3-year period starting next year. Washington says it will provide $1.3 billion in additional financial assistance to Ukraine for its reconstruction efforts. The World Bank estimates the costs of the war at about $411 billion so far. Ukraine's president appeared on video and urged donors to take concrete steps.
I want to thank you. And of course, I thank Switzerland, Germany, France, Italy, every country where we have agreed on key principles for recovery. At this conference, we must move from vision to agreements and from agreements to real projects.
The U.S. Secretary of State said Russia will eventually pay for the damage done to Ukraine.
Even as we come together here in London, committed to supporting Ukraine's buildup, Russia continues to try to burn it down. So, let's be clear. Russia is causing Ukraine's destruction, and Russia will eventually bear the cost of Ukraine's reconstruction.
Let's speak now to Nadeem Baba, who's at the conference in London for us. Nadeem, this conference raises a really interesting question. After 16 months of war in a country as large as Ukraine, what's the bill? How much does it really cost to rebuild?
Well, Cyril, of course, all figures are estimates at the moment. We heard from the World Bank recently, they think in the short term, the reconstruction of Ukraine's economy could cost $14 billion US. In total, over perhaps decades, they've put the figure at more than $400 billion US. Now, things are moving, and it's a mixture of money directly from government, direct assistance like that $1.3 billion announced by the US, and loan guarantees. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, before the two-day conference started, said that Britain was trying to arrange loan guarantees through the World Bank to Ukraine of more than $3 billion for the immediate term. But beyond that, Politicians are talking about some sort of Marshall Plan type approach to Ukraine, similar to what happened in the rebuilding of Germany after World War II. But the crucial difference, of course, is that the conflict in Ukraine is still ongoing. There's a lot of fear. And so, for example, in the last couple of hours, France's foreign minister speaking here said that her country was going to introduce a war insurance mechanism which would basically guarantee any companies in France pledging to invest in Ukraine.
In sports, a young Jamaican sprinter, Elena Reed, has inked a multi-year deal with American-based sports company Nike. The national under-20 100-meter record holder gained a new national junior record time of 10.92 seconds to play an integral part in helping Hydel High to their first girls' champs title a few months ago. She was initially expected to take up a scholarship with University of Oregon in the United States this fall, but changed her mind following a string of impressive performances this season, including a victory over her senior compatriots at the JAAA All-Comers Meet last month. And that's the news on PBCJ. Remember, you can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you so much for watching.